And here you have it. One of my clients got a $25,000 approval from Wells Fargo using this strategy. One of my clients just got approved for a $25,000 Wells Fargo business line of credit. Not a credit card, a true revolving business line. And they did it with a 3-year-old LLC and way more credentials. Now, I want to tell you right now, this wasn't a quick fix, wasn't an easy approval, but I promise you it's definitely worth it. And I'm going to break everything down to you because in today's lesson, I'm going to show you exactly step by step what my client had to do and what you can do to get approved for a similar limit. So what I want you to do is go grab your pen and paper. And without further ado, let's dive in. Now, before I get into the client's profile, let me just explain something here that we're actually dealing with. Most people in the business credit space conflate business credit cards with business lines of credit. Let me explain. They're different instruments and they serve different purposes for the most part. A business credit card gives you a revolving limit. You spend up on it, you pay it down, pretty much resets, okay? The limit is pretty much fixed. And most banks reserve that right to report business cards, to your personal credit bureaus depending on the account standing. A Wells Fargo business line of credit is a revolving credit facility between $5,000 and $100,000. No annual fee, as in the making of this video, no draw fee, meaning every time that you pull from it, you're not paying a transaction cost, okay? You only pay the interest on what you actively use, and it's unsecured, no collateral required. Here's why this matters for business owners specifically. When you're building out a full capital stack, you want instruments that don't behave the same exact way, okay? Business credit cards are great for stacking high limits or respectful limits across multiple situations or institutions. But a business line of credit gives you flexible liquidity, okay? So you draw what you need, you put it back, you draw again. The cycling behavior builds a separate stacking credit relationship. And with that relationship with the banks, that actually opens the door for more relationship banking. And that's the path to higher limits over time. This is one of the primary products that we use inside the Everhart Capital funding sequence. Okay, everybody can't get approved for it, but if I can use it, I'm definitely putting it in there. Now, let me show you what the profile look like so you can kind of get a glimpse of what's going on so you can, stack up against it. Now, with the exact client profile, this is what my client came in with. A 3-year-old LLC, okay? An 821 credit score. And just to tell you right now, 821 is great. You don't have to have an 821 just to get this business line of credit, but I'm just telling you what they had, okay? Business banking established across multiple institutions showing real operational history. No derogatory marks, no collections, charge-offs, late payments, you name it. 0 inquiries in the last 90 days prior to the application. Now, I want to stop you right here because, again, I just want to reiterate because I know what you're thinking. That score is pretty much elite. Most people are not walking around with an 821, okay? But here's what I want you to understand. Again, the 821 score is just what got them or helped them get the $25,000 for the best tier. What Wells Fargo is actually reading was the internal review scoring model, okay? So the credit file behind the number. You get me? If you don't, I promise I'm about to break it down. Because that's a different conversation. They're not just looking at the score. If that was the case, all of us would be, most of us would have anything out here, okay? We'll all be riding around in Bugattis and Lamborghinis and stuff like that. They're going to look at the entire story, what your credit file tells them, okay? So let me break down exactly what that story looks like. My client had multiple open trade lines, credit cards, personal loans that were paid off or 98% paid off, 70%, whatever it was, an auto loan, not just 2 or 3 cards again, and a full, well-aged credit file mixed with different types of products. Wells Fargo rewards a file diversity. A profile with 1 card and an 800 credit score is just a tad bit riskier than a profile with 12 accounts, mixed types, and probably a 701. Utilization, under 10% across every individual account. So that's not just overall, we're talking about per card. Because I know I was saying that before, hey, try to have it up under 10%. A lot of people were thinking, oh, I could just have it overall up under 10%. No, ladies and gents, it has to be per card. You can't have one 80% maxed out and then have the rest of them 0. It doesn't work like that, I'm telling you. Because most business owners tank their approval by carrying 40, 50, 60% utilization on their personal cards going into business, on the line of the application. Banks see that as a flag that shows that, hey, this person is in debt and they probably need help. This person maxes out available credit. That's one factor that can drop your approval from $25,000 to a $5,000 or a denial. Now, pay attention to this part. Your score can be an 800, but if your utilization is high, Wells Fargo internal model is recalibrating that limit of what you're willing or what they're willing to extend. Okay, so my client was, again, under 10% on every single card. That's by design. We managed that going in. The account age was over 7 years. Now, I'm not saying you have to have 7 years, but theirs was 7 years. Now, with the hard credit history, 0 hard pulls in the last 90 days of the application. So that means if you've been shopping around for credit aggressively, applying for cards, applying for loans, and walking into Wells Fargo for the business line application with 6 hard inquiries in the last 90 days, and that model reads financial stress, all right? And that's probably most of you. My client came in with a clean window. Well, not in the beginning because, of course, I had to wipe a lot of inquiries, but it was still worth it because we were able to actually get them approved. And then once all that was done, the entire profile was still optimal and we were able to go in, all right? And we didn't go in blind or underprepared. This was all by design. You see where I'm going with this? This is stuff that you have to do. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the application window because this part extends the approval timelines and triggers document requests. And it's the place where most people skip. When you apply for Wells Fargo, especially for the business line of credit, you're not just submitting your personal credit for review. You're submitting a business entity, and Wells Fargo verifies the entity against multiple public data sources. Your LLC needs to be in good standing with your state, not just registered in good standing. And if your annual report hasn't been filed, and if your registered agent is flagged, then it's pretty much going to be administrative dissolution showing anywhere from the database, and that's pretty much how you get caught. Now, with your EIN needs to match exactly to the legal business name on the application. The spelling, the capitalization, the entity suffix, LLC, limited liability company, it all needs to be consistent. Trust me, I know from being hard-headed because even I did that, okay? But anyway, because Wells Fargo cross-references your EIN against the IRS records, any mismatch can push back the application for a manual review and for additional verification. Next, your business address needs to be consistent across everything, okay? What's on the application, what's on your state registration, what's on your business credit report, and if those 3 don't match, you're getting flagged. And that flag means document request. And document request means a 14-day timeline becomes a 30-day timeline or even longer. And now you're going to be sitting there stressing. So my client's entity was clean. The LLC was in good standing. EIN registered correctly to the exact legal name on the application. Because addresses consistent across every single record, operating agreements on every file, that's what you need to keep going. Now, I just want to be real with you right here for 1 second. We applied for this on, I think it was February 1st, and Wells Fargo initiated a credit review. And they ran internal scoring models, and it took them about 14 days to come back. So when February 15th came around, the approval came through and we got $25,000, on a variable side. Unsecured, no collateral, and no annual fee. All right. Now, walking a client through this entire setup, managing the inquiry window, getting the entity verified before the application goes in, sequencing this into a broader capital stack, you see, that's the work. Because again, getting the clean entity, managing the bureau window, knowing exactly what Wells Fargo is reviewing at each and every stage of the 14-day process or however long it takes, that's exactly how and what we build for inside the Everhart Capital program. So if you're a business owner with a 700 or better personal credit score and you want to access $50,000 to $300,000 in business capital from all of these reputable banks, we're going to handle everything as far as the full build, the entity setup, and the data points, along with the banking connections so you can get approved for these respectful limits. So what I want you to do is click the link below right now to book that capital consultation, and I'll see you on that call. Now, let's go ahead and get into the Wells Fargo scoring system and what's inside the review window. And inside the Wells Fargo credit review, most people think that the credit review is like a computer just pulls your score, computer just approves or denies you based on your number. It's not that simple. that AI computer is there, but it's still not that simple. Wells Fargo Business Line Review has multiple stages because it's not just a credit card. First is the automated decisioning. And with the initial screen where the system checks your FICO against the minimum. All right, so then it checks for recent derogatory marks, it checks for any bankruptcies, judgments, and if you pass that screen, the application goes to stage 2. And with stage 2 is the credit analysis review. A human being sometimes, well, not all the time, but most of the time, a human being is going to look at your credit report, not just the number again, the file, and see if you're actually ready for the major banking, pretty much what they want to see. I'll just say it like that. All right, and they're going to look at the payment pattern over time, not just your current score. So they want to know, has this person been consistently paying on time on the personal side? With the 821 credit score, that's perfect behavior. Now, is it enough? And they find out, okay, it is enough. Okay, cool. Now we can continue to move forward. And here's another thing when it comes to Wells Fargo and the limit sizing. Wells Fargo doesn't decide approve or deny. They're deciding how much to really extend. And the factors that move you from the floor approval to the ceiling approval are, I think it's like utilization, file depth. I'm trying to remember it in order. It was like utilization, file depth, and business banking history in that order. Okay. So my client, again, utilization, you already know, is 10% across the board. So that passed that. And the business banking showing legitimate operational history. So Wells Fargo moved them to the $25,000 and not just 8 or 12 or 5. See what I'm saying? The path is really to get like 50, 75, but you're going to have to start showing bank statements and really show some really cash coming in. So if there's any inconsistencies between what you've submitted and what their verification pulls, the file pretty much moves to stage 3, which is manual document request. They'll ask for bank statements, business license, proof of revenue, things like that. Sometimes they will, sometimes they just want to, just make sure they protect themselves. But if you have that, cool. If you don't, you might have to just move on and just, go from there, okay? Especially if you inflate the numbers extremely high. Now, how to use the line for the long game. So once the Wells Fargo business line is open, the strategy matters as much as, the approval. Because stay with me, this part is really important as well. Do not treat the line like cash reserve that you never touch. A dormant revolving line of credit sometimes has the risk of being closed. I've had that before, so don't do that, okay? Don't just have it, just say you have it. Sometimes you do have to use it. Banks will monitor the utilization and the usage pattern, so if you draw from it, cool. But if you're not really building that repayment history with Wells Fargo, then, that's going to cause more issues, okay? So the right approach is a draw cycle. Pull what you need for it from the real business approach and then pay it back. Try to pay it back within the 60 days in full. If you can't, try to do it within like 4 months. I would say if it's a large draw, okay? But just show Wells Fargo that you're trying to be proactive in paying all this back. Make them feel like they didn't make a mistake, all right? And that behavior over 12 to 18 months can trigger, credit line increases. Even if you're doing it right. And with that being said, that credit line increase can go from 25 to 50. 50 becomes a 75, and then a business line ceiling of $100,000. And that's all from just building that banking relationship and being responsible. All right. I know that we're taking bets. I know we're business owners, and sometimes things don't always go as we plan, but always take a calculated risk and not just a risk. Okay. That's what people fail to realize. If you do this right, then you won't have too much of an issue just moving forward, okay? All that being said, I want to talk to 2 different groups. If you're watching this and you're a business owner and you're like, man, I really want the Wells Fargo business line of credit, but you have, collections, late payments, charge-offs on your credit report, high utilization, then you have another issue that we have to take care of. And what I want you to do is click the link below right now to sign up for that credit repair consultation. On that call, we're going to go over what the strategy is going to be to get you to the funding side so we can help you get the capital so you can start. We got to fix the foundation and then build from there. So again, what I want you to do is click the link below to sign up for that credit repair consultation. Now, if your credit is already clean, 700 or higher, no negatives, and you're a business owner ready to build a capital stack, then this is where the Everhart Capital funding program is built for. Because we're going to, again, handle that entity build, the bureau management, and the banking relationships to bring you a full $100,000 or more in possible business capital. All right, across various banks. So again, what I want you to do is click the link below right now to sign up for that capital consultation, and I can't wait to help you get you towards your goals. Again, I want to thank you guys for stepping by. I know I said it, but I'm really just trying to help you get you towards your goals. So, you know, if that's you, if that sounds like something you want to do, then I hope the video helps you. But if not, click those links so I can really help you get you towards that goal. I want to thank you guys for stopping by. And until next time, ladies and gents.